Come here, Oakley. Come on. Yo. Yo. Come on. Come on. Come on. Yo. Yo. Come on. Come on. Come on. Yo. Yo. Come on. Come on. Come on. Yo. Yo. Come on. Okay, thanks for everybody that was listening to all the craziness that was happening during the countdown. My wife just came home and the dog needed to get outside. So, thanks for joining us today. We are going to be speaking in a few moments with the two newest Jenkins board members, Jenkins project board members. We're going to be talking to Gavin and to Marky. And just to get everybody set up with that, the elections just wrapped up not too long ago. And let me grab my screen share here real quick so we can see what happened. We'll do that. And what we can see here is the tweet came out. We got Hawkeye, which is Gavin. We got Marky Jackson. And then we also have another one of the officers that we're not going to speak with today, but we'll bring on later. But let's go ahead and bring in Marky. There's Marky. Hello, Marky.
Hello.
And let's bring in Gavin. Gavin, are you with us?
I am with you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, good.
Gavin.
So that was a very, yes, cheers to everybody that is here with us live. It is Tuesday, December 15th at around 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. I'm catching everybody on the West Coast during their snack breaks. Aren't you going out and walking during this break time?
Yes.
I
Yeah,
admit, I barely leave the house. It's horrible.
Well, okay, hang on. Who doesn't barely leave the house right now? So, congratulations, guys, to both
Thank
of
you.
you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
It still doesn't feel real. It's weird.
So, why do you say that?
I actually have, I'll admit, I have no idea what my expectations are for this. It came up. I was nominated. It was a little surreal that I got nominated, and then it got even more surreal that I got voted in. I'm very excited and happy to be involved, but I'm not entirely sure what's going on yet.
And that sort of echoes what you said in your blog post.
Yeah.
Part of it, which is, and the links for this, by the way, if you're watching this on YouTube right now, we've got 7 people on live with us right now. If you go down and look right below the video, you'll see links off to the blog post and to the tweet that we just talked about. Gavin is interesting in the fact that he doesn't really do a whole lot with Jenkins. How do we want to say that?
I'm not a core contributor.
Yes.
I don't work on Jenkins core. I work on a lot of the other pieces. So as you know, as I said in my blog post, I work on the plugin site. I do a lot of support work. I do a lot of infra work, but my expertise is outside of Java, so I don't actually work on Jenkins core very often.
And we'll come back to the plugin site because you said while we were getting ready that you had just made some changes to release notes.
Yes. So now every plugin listed on the plugin site will have release notes will have releases indicating when the version was released and what the version number is. And if the plugin's using GitHub release notes, it'll also include the GitHub release notes at the same time. We're hoping to expand that, but that's where we're starting with.
Cool. And Marky's going, yay. The plugin site has come a long way in a very short time.
Yeah, a year
Very short
ago,
time.
it barely stayed up. You know, if we had a release of plugin, let's say the Git plugin, which is very popular, it crashed or slowed down to the point nobody would use it. You know, the traffic, any Google traffic would kill it. It wasn't getting any search results because Google has that time to render for search results. And we cut over to a new static site generator, so all the files are nice and staticky. Even if the build fails, the site will stay running. And we actually set up a migration system so that any links to the old wiki pages, which were always horrendously out of date, now go directly to the plugin site where you can see, you know, when it was last released, who released it, release notes, documentation, that kind of thing. And we hope to keep expanding that.
Websites should be static. I'll just say that. Okay.
Yeah. As a somewhat web developer, I'm very much in favor of that.
And by the way, my name is Darren Pope. I haven't introduced myself. I'm a developer advocate with CloudBees. Gavin, who do you work for today?
I'm at DigitalOcean on what's called the Bits team, which is somewhat internal development, and you know, linking various services and teams together.
Cool.
Doing a bit of Ruby and Golang, so not Java or web there either.
Cool. Now, Marky, are you unmuted? You are unmuted.
Mm-hmm. I'm here.
Okay. We have another Mark saying congratulations and thanks to Kevin and Marky for accepting the role. Mark is the Jenkins documentation officer and also the maintainer of the plugin that probably gets the most amount of usage, would you think?
It installs for sure, yeah.
Oh. It's the Git plugin, by the way, in case you didn't know that. And Stephen jumped in here as well, and Benjamin. Congrats to everybody. This is very cool. So, Marky, I've sort of let Gavin have the floor. Let's let Marky have the floor here for a minute. So, unlike Gavin, you are a core contributor. Correct?
And plugin maintainer.
And plugin maintainer. What's your most least favorite plugin to maintain? Did I say that out loud?
Yeah, I think I can say that out loud. I think my most least favorite would probably be the GitLab plugin.
It's an important one, though.
It is.
GitLab is a super important plugin.
It definitely has its place.
Well, for a lot of people that never had Git on premise, GitLab was great. Still is great.
It's a definitely good offering. I would like to see more dedication from the company back to the open source, but it is what it is.
Yeah, it's okay. So one of the things that you call out in your basically thank you for everything was other than roadmaps, you were wanting to continue help meetups to thrive. What are you going for in that? What does that mean to you?
COVID was it's a horrible thing, but there were some silver linings within COVID. And one of those silver linings was the fact that we as individuals in an open project could cover more ground. So what I mean by that, meetups they're now virtual. So you can go do more talking about what you really like, about Jenkins. And I think that, we're going to probably be here for a little bit longer. And I want to take advantage of that by making sure we're promoting open source Jenkins as much as we can as a project outward. So by doing that, I think we will increase adoption, and we're just showing more people that there is this open source project that's used in a lot of different large companies, and I want to promote that more.
Cool. And in promoting that, what does that mean? Is it like stuff we're doing right now? I mean, this is one way to do it.
This is one way to do it. Promoting is, there are people out there that want to be part of an open source project. There's all kinds of projects that have really great communities. Jenkins being one of those, I want to promote that. There are individuals that have knowledge or want knowledge about whether it be how to write technical documentation, how to code, how to get involved, and they just need a little bit of help. And that's what I want to promote that more, to show people that you can do this too. And if you can, I'll help you.
Right. And right now, you're the two newest board members. The other board members are, help me out because I don't remember.
We have Oleg. We have KK is still in there.
KK. Right.
I think Corey's still there too as well.
No, Alex and Corey are the two that left.
Those are coming off.
Right. So it's
we have Ulrich is there.
Ulrich. That's it.
And Olivier.
And Olivier. Is Olivier?
Nope.
Nope. He's infrastructure.
Correct. He is infrastructure officer.
We're really aware of everything.
That's okay.
It's still very new for us,
Right.
Very new.
So now that you're basically setting men in the high castle,
Yep.
what are you? By the way, that was a great series on Amazon. If you haven't watched it,
Definitely on my list.
Oh, that's right, because you're in Canada.
Yeah.
Is it even on Amazon in Canada?
Amazon is actually really good at making all their content available everywhere.
Oh, that's right. When it's theirs. Yeah.
It's theirs. The other providers are not as good at that.
Yeah. I will say, when I was traveling to Canada before these times, I liked going up there because all the DC stuff was on Netflix. So I could catch up on Titans and a lot of other things that I can't see down here in the States.
It's also mostly filmed here in Vancouver, so that's really cool too.
Look, the only place that so all the sci-fi stuff happens in Vancouver, and then when they stop doing sci-fi, they go to Hallmark Channel.
Yeah.
So I get to see all my great sci-fi actors show up on Hallmark because I'm also a Hallmark addict.
Yeah.
It's probably too much information, but that's okay. Doesn't matter.
It's interesting to see here, like, we're definitely off topic now, but Vancouver is a very iconic city, right? The actual city landscape isn't used very much in sci-fi, but all the forests. I mean, 3/4 of Stargate was in the forest. They moved to a different part of the forest, and that's a new planet. Battlestar Galactica was done at the local university, and again, it's either in the soundstage for the ship or in the forest or in one of the local universities for the planet settings. It's just it's all over here. So that means the actors are reused all the time between series. You can see background actors. I have friends that are actors that get really excited at that new part. So.
Jenkins. Let's talk Jenkins. Sorry. How can we make? Let's stick with Marky's thing here for just a minute longer. How can we make quote unquote meetups actually go better than what we're doing? Like this one we were talking about before we started. We didn't promote this well ahead of time, sort of on purpose, but it was a little bit later than I wanted. Not that we want to go down the webinar route to where you find out 3 weeks in advance, and okay, that's the other end of the pendulum. With meetups, just because I'm on the East Coast, I could attend a West Coast meetup now. I couldn't do that prior to not being able to get on a plane. Where do you see this whole space going? What do you see happening?
I see a lot of collaboration coming out of it. I see a lot of cool tech coming out of this. And it really what it is it's what people have done is we're in a situation, we're using the situation to the best of our advantage. I was at a meetup in Atlanta for the Kubernetes Atlanta meetup, and in Michigan, and just being able to cover that ground. And I mean, for some people that have to, a budget, right? If you think you have to do this sort of advocacy on a budget, you've now just completely eliminated. You don't have to spend anything anymore. That's awesome. But I think more so what it is people want to be able to feel close. They want to feel some type of kinship. And by being able to promote something through a meetup, whether it's, in San Jose or in, Pune, India, you now have that ability, and you have that ability to bridge a gap with another, continent, another country, another base of users that you didn't maybe couldn't do before. And that gets people excited. Well, at least it does for me, but it gets people wanting to know more, and people are going to show up and they're going to say, oh, hey, so and so is here, they did a meetup and showed me how to use Jenkins on Kubernetes. And that's awesome. And I want to make sure we're promoting that more and using this time to the best of our ability.
And the reverse is very true as well, right? So while getting people to a city that may not attract, the big open source people will suddenly be able to see the content without having to travel for a conference or a bigger meetup. Like San Francisco has a lot of the big tech people, but let's say if you're outside of even like Northern California, if you want to go see someone in San Francisco, you'd have to travel and go see it. Now you can just jump online and see a meetup presentation by someone quote unquote famous. It works both ways.
And we're also being inclusive in the sense that for people that may not feel comfortable going into a physical setting, well, we now made it that ability for them to be able to see it. They don't have to turn on their camera. They don't have to say anything. They can now just see something. And I think that's great. And I think also the ability to give people a voice and show that, hey, you may know about Jenkins and you may be in Nigeria. And well, hey, we'd love to do a meetup with you. That's awesome. That's power. I mean, that's so amazing. And as bad as the COVID situation is, like I had said in the initial part, there were some silver linings, at least for me, trying to find the positive in everything.
I'm really liking just even the video tech, some are better for high bandwidth users, some are better for low bandwidth users, but I find there are now more and more tech designed for OpenQA. Google did release one a year ago or 2 years ago before COVID, but it was okay. And you can start seeing more and more companies out there going, okay, well, we're going to have these online meetups. We want to make it so that people who are uncomfortable speaking up on audio are still able to ask questions, and you can pre-screen or live chat or anything else like that. But there's always improvements in that area, and you are starting to see some more of that in the COVID era.
So getting away from the meetups for a minute, what is some interesting tech that you're seeing in your day jobs? Now, Marky, I didn't ask you, who do you work for today?
I work for Equinix. I'm part of the Equinix Metal team. So we have the open source project Tinkerbell.
Ah, okay.
Bare metal provisioning, Kubernetes.
Yep. That's like not a thing, right? Kubernetes is it's a passing fad.
Super. It's going to go away.
Okay.
Yeah, I definitely don't have a bunch of a home lab in my closet in this tiny apartment.
Not going to open the door behind me.
Let's because you have enough heat probably coming out of that to, I won't go any further than that. All right, so I did see Kelsey Hightower tweet this week saying that we were year 7 into a 20-year lifespan of Kubernetes. True or false?
I'm going to say true. I'm going to say true.
I got to say false. I've been in those jobs where that tech that everyone's done with is still alive and well, kicking and used and heavily used. My first couple of jobs were Perl, and everyone's telling me repeatedly how it's dead and not used anymore. And really what it is that flashiness might go away, but the tech isn't going away.
Yep, exactly. I think I don't think Kubernetes is going to go away. The abstraction that we know as Kubernetes will not go away. I think what we will see, and I think you've heard maybe people say this in the past, is Kubernetes will become boring, whereas the core will not change very much. There will be feature enhancements, but there will be add-ons. You're going to see this whole new ecosystem, as we see now already, but you're going to continue to see that. But Kubernetes, as we know it, will change a little, but it won't change much. I think I said that the right way.
You
Hopefully I
did.
did.
Basically, it's just going to fade off into the background, and that layer of abstraction on top of it is what there's going to be a handful of people that know how to do it, right? Do the Kubernetes part of it, but it's going to be that upper level abstraction. What I call it is the Heroku layer. Once that Heroku layer is whatever it is, ends up being there, then that's what's going to matter. Marky, your daughter said, "Congratulations."
Wow. I am blown away by that. I'm not
My
going to tear up. I swear to God.
Go ahead. It's fine. I have a daughter too. It doesn't matter. Again, remember, I like Hallmark, so I'll cry just like that. Mark Waite has a question. Any insights to share on outreach to locations with intermittent internet access, i.e., Nigeria? Well, Starlink is going to be one of those things. Starlink? Space?
Yeah.
What is it?
Starlink is the Musk one, yeah.
Yeah.
I will say I worked with a couple of Australians, and in Australia, you either have really good internet or you have really poor internet. There's nothing in between. And we did find that some of the video chat services were a lot better for them than others. I mean, I don't like naming names, but Hangout's really good for low bandwidth because it'll degrade really quickly. Maybe you'll just get audio. While some of the other ones, they'll just stutter to the point where you don't get anything. So, I mean, that's definitely an issue to do with like meetups. But I mean, online meetups you can record and distribute. So it's not the end of the world, but it's not an ideal situation. But that's just on the meetup side. You know, on the doc side and just things in general, I want to make it so that, you know, I want to continue making static sites. You know, this is a big thing for me. I want to make sure that anyone can reach it anytime. You know, maybe we even potentially even have an offline copy because there's nothing actually on the plugin site as it is today that doesn't function if you're offline. So we could, you know, make a zip that you could download once every quarter or something and have all the docs, you know. So I wouldn't say there's any specific plans from my point of view to do this, but you know, I'm always looking forward to making it easier and faster for people to get things done.
Mark, you going to add into that any?
I will say that it's always best whenever you're dealing with any type of internet or meetups is to always check things in advance. Make sure you understand what's going to happen. Maybe you're doing some sound checks, turning off video for certain people so it's not degrading the bandwidth. I will also say from a docs perspective, you always want to make sure that when you're doing let me rephrase that. From a docs perspective, we just finished with the Google Summer of Docs. Mark Waite, myself, Kristen, and the awesome Zenob. Always make sure that you're understanding who your audience is, because things don't translate well that you may think is normal for you may not translate the same. So do a little bit of research so you understand what you're saying and how you're saying and make sure it comes across correctly.
Could you give an example of that? Do you remember one of the examples?
I have one offhand. So there was a debate last year during actually early this year. It was the previous board when they decided to replace the term master with controller. So the Jenkins master should now be called Jenkins controller. And it was quite a lively debate. It wasn't so much nitpicking on the actual words, just like someone would throw out a suggestion and someone would say, "Oh, that word means this in a different language. Is this what your intention was?" You know, and people would be like, "Oh, no, okay, I'm going to withdraw that one." Or sometimes it's like, "Yeah, that's fine. That still works within what I'm intending," right? So even a simple word is just, you know, like orchestrator. It's a much different word in other languages, and we could go look it up. Examples, but I think it was Spanish. It was just much more gendered and much more ugly word. So,
okay. By the way, Marky, she spilled the beans on you.
This is the way you turn your This is where you turn the camera and she's sitting right next to you, right?
That what your daughter just put there sounds like something my daughter would say. So that's
She's
that's
got
all
my
good.
sense of humor, that's for sure.
Well, well, never mind. I was going to say, at least your daughter replies to you. I have to wait like 3 days. Talk about
This
async
is a rare.
communications.
This is a rarity. This is a
Okay.
rarity.
So she's near synchronous with you right now. That's good.
I mean, she's still talking through someone else to him, so it's not that synchronous.
Okay.
Let's try something else, shall we, gentlemen?
Yes, let's move on. So in being elected to the board, what's your first 100 days going to look like?
Yeah, that's definitely interesting. I know I'm kind of this month is a little bit awkward just because everyone's busy and everything else, but I definitely want to try to get more involved with more of the Jenkins community stuff. I haven't necessarily done as much as I could have. I'm now in the advocacy channel, which talks about how we're gonna do some promotion, and I'm trying to get involved there. As I said, I do want to start pushing for more commercial support, so we can make it clear that the volunteers love to help, and it's a good thing to help, and make it easier for people to help, whether that's mailing lists or that's providing mirrors. But we want to make sure that if it's too much, people don't get frustrated and angry and make the community toxic. We want to make sure that they have an exit strategy where they can go, okay, cool, here's some commercial support. And then, on a slightly selfish thing, as a new DigitalOcean hire, I want to start getting DigitalOcean involved with Jenkins. So we'll see where that can go as well.
Marky, do you have any comments on that?
So definitely the first thing that I'm going to start executing on is the roadmap. The roadmap is something that was put forth starting, I believe, last year. And there's a lot of things on there. There's a lot of things to do. We have the terminology that needs to be worked on. That's something very near and dear to my heart. So I'm going to definitely continue there. And then I want to do as much outreach as humanly possible, because I want, in the time that I have, to be able to get this project in front of as much people so we can get more volunteers back. I think one of the things that I get asked quite often, at least when we were in in-person conferences, was how is it to work at CloudBees? And I'm like, I don't work at CloudBees. People find that very like, oh, well, where do you work? And they don't understand. I don't want to say they don't understand. Some people assume that if you dedicate a lot of time to an open source project, you are somehow getting paid for that. And as Gavin had alluded to, we're volunteers. And I want to make sure that the people that want to volunteer know how to do it. They have a safe place to do it. They have an onboarding to be able to do it. That's where I see myself in the first 100 days.
And to embellish that point, it's not only code. That's the one thing that we keep having to stress. Mark mentioned there's the Google Summer of Code, the Google Summer of Docs, which had a great entry this year. Hacktoberfest this year did a lot of updates to documentation and migrated them off the old wiki into the new GitHub method. So it's not just code volunteers. There's anything you want to help with, there's room to be helping with.
That is very, very true.
So besides docs and code, what would be the other things that people could help with?
Help host a meeting. Help host a meetup.
Yeah.
A lot of people want to do that. A lot of people think there's a secret handshake or something to be a part of this, and it's not. We just need help, and there's a lot we can do, whether it's reviewing PRs, triaging PRs, looking at issues, helping. One of the things a lot of people I have found want to do is they don't know how to write code, and they want to learn how to write code. You don't have to know how to write code to be a part of this community. And if you want to learn how to write code, we do mentoring. We can do these things. Very big thing I want to promote. I also would like to see us getting involved in helping underrepresented people, kids, women, I want to see more women in this, and anything I can do, like I said, in that short time that I'm here, those are the areas that I want to focus more on.
I will say reviewing is actually how I got started. I've been doing open source for almost 20 years now. So, I started just by going, how does this work? And one thing I have found that if you phrase it as I'm curious about how it works and not, I think you're doing it wrong, people get very excited to explain. Excuse me. I don't know, like it's a definite skill to do right, but for the most part, people are really excited to talk about things they're excited about. So you can usually go in and be like, oh, I don't know how this function works. Can you explain it to me? Or, so any code review doesn't even have to be like, yes, this is good and this should ship. Just like, hey, I looked at it. It makes sense to me. It's still a good code review. So, and that includes for documentation, that includes any review whatsoever, anywhere,
Yeah, on the reviewers front, just so everybody's aware that's watching this, there's not just code reviewers. Now, when we do some of our documentation, it looks like it's in quote format, but it's really not. There are a lot of different types of reviewers that we do. Mark Waite just highlighted the participate. There's all the areas that you can get involved in. But on the reviewers front, we have people that are what we call copy editors that will review a blog. You're looking to make sure it's written right and the punctuation is correct and all my grammar and all of that. We'll also have people that will be reviewing that actually review code. We have people that review, updates to meetings and things like that. Meeting notes is another thing. We have Twitter. That's another part of it. You can actually be one of the Twitter people that help put out tweets. So there's all these different roles that we actually have that you can get involved.
And I've been trying to encourage people to write blog posts because you'll have people come in and say, oh, I figure out, I have this question. And they're like, I've been doing Jenkins a long time. I don't know the answer to that question. I'd be really curious. If you do solve it, you should, submit a blog post to Jenkins.io. It's pretty straightforward. They're looking for always new content, and then there's also infrastructure, right? It's a little bit more hard. It's a little bit harder to give away access sometimes because you don't want to give away security things. But there's all of Jenkins infrastructure is set up as configuration as code, so you can run it in Minikube or K3s or a little biased here. You can spin up a DigitalOcean, manage Kubernetes and try it out there. You can try out the different things. You can write Helm charts. You can review Helm charts. Mark and I review a lot of Helm chart updates. There's all kinds of things. Like I said, I've been in Jenkins 10, 15 years and I barely write any actual code for it.
So I want to go there for a second. You review a lot of Helm charts.
Yeah.
Are your eyes crossed?
A little bit.
The amount we review.
I mean,
the templating for Helm charts is a little frustrating. Most of the reviews lately are just like bumping up versions, so it's not a big review. And we try to keep our reviews as small as possible. But when it comes down to like all the different configuration options, like the Jenkins chart itself is so many configuration options. You have to have these large if-else statements, and the Helm templates are just that. They're templates. They're not a coding language. They're just templates. So yeah, it does take quite a bit of reviewing and practice and learning. And it's a great place to have someone to ask questions, like, what does this do? And you're like, I actually don't know. I copied it from this chart. We should both go learn how this works,
Yeah. And that sort of leads into what Mark said here is, interactive testing of a PR is great. He's talking about plugin maintainers, but even of a Helm chart, it's sort of like, okay, what does that really look like?
There's a Docker image called Jenkins PR Tester, which I believe only works for core, but I think it might work for plugins now soon too. But essentially, you give it a PR number, it'll spin you up a Docker image with that PR merged in, and you can test it. So that means any single person anywhere can easily test a PR. Tim recently just did a major upgrade to the plugin manager. So now instead of rendering everything in the back end and sending it to the front end, and it's super slow, I don't know anyone else, but that plugin manager is always super slow to click around in. He's moved it to front end JavaScript, and it's super fast. And more eyes could easily have found more issues before we launched it. So there's lots of review things that are not actual code reviews.
So I will say, if you are out there and you're watching this and you want to get involved and don't know how, or you're afraid to ask publicly, you can find me on Twitter. You can find me in Gitter. I feel like there should be another rhyme to that. But you can find me at Twitter at MarkyJackson5. My profile is open. I accept messages from anyone. I'll help you.
No.
Because that's what it's about.
So, and since let's go ahead and let's do the right thing for Gavin. Gavin, you get to go full screen, and there's Gavin's Twitter handle there too.
Same with me. I actually run a JavaScript meetup here in Vancouver. Well, I did until COVID. It was because it was a much more hands-on workshop. But I've always been up for helping people learn. You can always reach out to me. I mean, again, I don't know the Java stuff as well, but I can point you to the right people who know it or can help answer questions. Especially the web stuff. I get pinged on a lot of web review stuff. I'll help out there, or infra stuff, or anything I can help you learn and grow with. I will gladly sit down and help you learn and grow with. And I am easy to find, just like Mark. I am on, Gitter and IRC and the mailing lists. Admittedly, I'm not on the users mailing list nearly as much as I should be, but Reddit. I like Reddit now. The Jenkins subreddit has gotten pretty busy, so
it has. I've been following that recently. So let me go back to something you said: Gitter, IRC, mailing lists. Shouldn't we sort of?
I know where you're going with this, and the answer is definitely yes. We should organize, but it takes effort.
Yeah.
The short answer is it takes effort, and we're all volunteers. Some of the people who've been around the project for a long time love IRC. A lot of the people who are deploying Jenkins are old school ops people, and they love IRC. And so we get IRC people. Some people want longer form questions that can be only answered over weeks or months, and they want a record of it. So email works best, and the mail list works great. Some people, a little bit more of the modern stuff, haven't used IRC before. They want to use Gitter because it has a history and, it has threads. So Gitter is an option. There is definitely I think there's Slacks and Discords as well. They're not officially listed, but they exist. So you can find your community anywhere. Trying to keep myself to 2 clients. So I have an IRC and I use Matrix now, but IRC and Gitter is the 2 that I have open all the time, so that I'm always around.
What about you, Marky? Are those your 2 primaries as well, or where do you?
Those are my 2 primaries. I also branch out into other communication mediums. For example, the Kubernetes Slack channel has a Jenkins CI channel, so I'm always in that. There is the CDF Slack that has a Jenkins component as well. I am always in there. There's the CNCF and other places. You can find me pretty much in any community.
Yeah, those are sort of the my word splinters, but from a canonical perspective, it's going to be Gitter and IRC.
That's correct.
Right.
Or the mailing list.
For live chat. Yeah. Mailing list is if you want the most eyes, mailing list is always the best option.
Okay.
That's correct.
So what else would you guys like to talk about? We've talked sci-fi, we've talked Hallmark, we've talked things that had nothing to do with Jenkins. Your first 100 days, let's say your first 100 days starts in January, right? Because we're at the holidays time, so you're in, but you're not really in yet. What are the things? What are the things that are exciting you guys right now about Jenkins?
Well, again, most of my stuff isn't necessarily board related. The board just makes it more involved. I want to see it easier to deploy Jenkins. Oleg is working on Jenkins Runner. I helped a Google Summer of Code student get a custom packager, so you could have a deployable WAR file with all your plugins installed. I'd love to see us get a little bit more official offering on more. Well, there's already an AWS and Google Cloud offering, but I'd like to get the DigitalOcean Cloud offering, so you can just one click have it installed, ready to work. There are people working on making that easier with Kubernetes and Docker, and I want to leverage that. So there's definitely that side. I like to see the one-click deploys more. But again, I mean, generally, I just want to keep making sure that I can take load off other people who are busy, So that's why I try to answer as many questions to do with process about signing up for a plugin or helping out. Because the people who know the infrastructure or know the Java stuff inside and out, I can take the easy ones off their plate while they can work on a little harder, more exciting stuff. So that's usually what I'm going to continue doing.
Is a plugin always the answer?
No. We definitely having this chat earlier.
That go perfectly together? No.
No. We had that discussion before the live stream. It's definitely it's a hot topic, right? We have a lot of people come into support wanting to do these really complicated pipelines, and I really hate ever using the right answers. That's the cool thing about Jenkins is there's so many different ways to do anything. The right way is the way that works. But that being said, I don't believe in vendor lock-in, and I don't think anyone in the Jenkins projects wants to lock you into Jenkins. They want you to have a good experience. So that means, you probably want to get as much as your build process done in a script. That the script works offline, works online, works inside of Jenkins, and then leverage Jenkins for repeatability, leverage Jenkins for reporting. The warnings plugin is just amazing. That's the other board member that we forgot. Actually, the warnings plugin is really great. It now integrates with GitHub checks, so it can be integrated into your PRs. It actually has a nice reporting, so you can actually see graphs about how many warnings you get, which warnings come up, where they are, what type of severity they are. I find that aspect of Jenkins is more important to have as a plugin, and the actual build process should be done in a very agnostic way where you can run it anywhere and everywhere.
In case of uh-ohs, right? That's the primary reason.
Honestly, anything. It could be your Jenkins server's down one day. It could be that you just don't feel like clicking a mouse 4 times. You want to see if this deploys properly to staging. Yeah.
I have always been of the mindset that before you use a plugin, you should know how everything should natively work. A good example is Docker. You rely on something to handle Docker for you under the hood. If that something breaks, is your code reliable enough to withstand not having that particular plugin or what have you? So I have always been, because it's bitten me enough times to say, if I'm going to write a pipeline that's going to do anything related to Docker, I want to have native Docker calls in my pipeline, because if something goes pear-shaped, I have to be able to rely back on that in an enterprise organization. If it's something on my own, that's different. But if you're, where your bread and butter is that build, I need to be able to rely on that. And I found that if you don't understand how something works, natively without, plug-in magic, you're going to find yourself in a very hard place.
Now, on the flip side, there's great uses for plugins. Like, you can do everything via curl. You can do all your HTTP requests. You can talk to Artifactory. You can talk to GitHub APIs. You can do everything you want. You can even post to Slack via curl. It's totally doable. But anyone who's ever done a complicated curl command in the shell will learn that escaping variables is tricky. There's bash escape, there's groovy escape, there's replacements. The Slack plugin works really great. You can have rich text messages in there. You can have your placeholders in there. The HTTP request plugin I'm a big fan of because it can do retries a lot easier. You can actually do like a while loop in Groovy. Again, it's not portable. It means I'd have to rewrite it when I move to another CI. And a lot of jobs you do move to different CIs. But it works. It works really reliable. You don't have to worry about trimming or anything else. So.
Well, and the thing too with the HTTP request is it's implemented correctly, meaning it's using master to slave callable.
Different terminology. Change the terminology. Sorry, I had to interrupt you there. Controller to agent.
Well, yes,
that is the class name, though.
That's still the class name at the moment. So
correct.
Yeah, so that's
that's
why I was hesitating. Yes.
That is on the roadmap for change.
Yes. So I didn't want to call out the one that doesn't exist yet. But
yeah. But you're right. It does run on your agent. Sometimes the plugins don't. That one is specifically one that if you're running on an agent, let's say your agent's in a different cloud, you want it to have the right network thing. That is a good example of it working right. Yeah. Some of the plugins don't do that, and they run everything on the master, which means your master gets overloaded. So just because there is a plugin doesn't mean you should use a plugin. But just because Shell can do it doesn't mean you should use Shell. Do the one that works right for you.
And sometimes that may mean you need to bake off Shell versus a plugin, which is what I was doing today for a specific plugin. And it's like, okay, I could use the plugin, or I could use Ansible to get the tool onto my agent and just be done with it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What do you think of that? And I'll probably step over the edge here. Should Jenkins be installing the tools on your agents for you?
My vote is, well, you're allowed to. I'm fully admit that it should be allowed to. I think it's not a great thing, but it only is not a great thing because Docker exists. To me, that's the nice thing about Docker is I can go, hey, cool, I got this build thing that has the 6 tools I want. It's pinned to the right version. It's in the right place, I think. It doesn't matter if this is running Windows or Linux. Docker will take care of that glue. For one of the Jenkins, we build Docker images on Jenkins all the time, or on the Jenkins infra all the time. So I made a pipeline, a shared pipeline that, runs Link, which is a linter for Docker files, and then it runs a build, and then it does a deploy if it's on the right branch, tags it if it's tagged. All those things are just Docker images. It doesn't have to do anything on the actual main controller at all. Again, you could do it because you can install those things via Jenkins tools library. It works well, but it's not the way I would do it.
Yeah, I think it depends on the environment, right? The environment, and once you're in that environment, it depends on, what is the team constraint? How many people do you have? How will you support it? How long will it take you to write? Sometimes people are in firefighting mode all the time. They don't have. I worked for a company where the Jenkins was in just very dire straits, and we were constantly firefighting. We did not have a lot of time to dedicate to writing these sort of nice things that we would have done. So we had to just rely on a plugin to get it done and get it out.
And the more plugins you have, when you do an upgrade, the worse the potential failure, right? I like them. I love the reporting ones, but all the reporting ones you can disable if they break. It doesn't break your deployment pipeline. So that to me is where the distinction lies. If it's critical, don't make it critical in Jenkins unless it provides something well outside of what you can do outside of it. Because I like being able to deploy if I have to without Jenkins. Now, admittedly, Jenkins has gotten incredibly stable with all the infrastructure changes, but it still has issues.
So let me ask this.
Reward.
Yes. Yes. So Docker. Latest tag, thumbs up, thumbs down.
Depends what for. I mean, if it's lint, which is, a tool that, again, it lints your Docker file, I think latest is great because it'll always report the latest issues. But I'm only ever making it warn you and not fail your build. If you're making it do something specific like a compiler, I'll pin a version. If your top of your file says from, that should pin a version. And you can use Dependabot or anything else to make it update, but they should be repeatable builds. So that's where I think the distinction is for tooling. For just like reporting, go ahead, go latest. It doesn't matter. You can pin it if you want, but I always like to get the most community support as quickly as possible. But also don't
control.
Yeah.
So you brought up Dependabot.
Yes.
Thumbs up or thumbs down?
Both. Definitely both. Yeah.
So thumbs up first. So go thumbs up first.
Yeah. It does its job really well. All of them do. And there's lots of them out there. There's RenovaBot. I can think of a couple other ones as well. They all do the same thing. Essentially, you tell them your configurations to scan. So Jenkins file, Docker file, your package JSON, your pom.xml, whatever else. You can scan it and you can give it rules and say, okay, anytime there's a security update, send a PR. It's great. It works really well. I love the security update ones. I think I'm going to have to start reconfiguring more of my projects to only do security updates, because some of the other open source projects update 3 times a week, and you got 150, different PRs that get opened every day on the saying, hey, update this dependency, and it's great because it will run through, checks your CI, continue to make sure it builds. You can hit merge. It's a lot easier to update a small revision than it is to update a year-old revision. But it also is a lot of noise, So I'm definitely mixed on it.
What do you think, Marky?
I like it, definitely for the security things, but it can create a lot of chatter. There are ways that you can sort of tame that chatter down by only allowing, you know, I know with, I can't think of the name, but there is a way you can build certain serif files to do the code QL and you can set risk, right? So if it's if it's a one is bad, like you got to update it now. But if it's a 5, it's like I can wait maybe, a few releases before I do that. So there's pros and cons. I like it because it does a lot of the automation for you, gets a lot of things done. But then again, if it's constant, it's a lot of chatter, especially if you're the only one maintaining something.
Sunday night is a little bit of overwhelming. You go to bed and you got one email. You wake up Monday morning and there's 150 emails. So,
yeah, but it goes along with the territory now.
Exactly.
If you think about when we didn't have that, the option was a CVE showing up, and you're chasing a different fire.
Yeah.
Right. Or you find out that you've been breached and you're on the front of Hacker News.
Yeah. I actually, the ones I really like, I've used more and more, less on the JavaScript side because they have a lot of packages. And as much as I do love JavaScript, they're infamous for their amount of packages. I like it a lot more for Docker files because of the pinned version. So like I have a Docker file that builds a Jenkins version with all my plugins built in so that I can deploy anytime I want without worrying about updates that are being up or down. Like it doesn't bother me. It's built as CI. And then I have Dependabot update that Docker file every time a new version of Jenkins comes out. So if for whatever reason the weekly version has a bug in it that breaks my stuff, I can roll back to the previous Docker build and just redeploy that. And I love that. And that's one of the things I think Dependabot is great at. I'm less sold on, again, the weeklies for plugins or packages. But I think I might switch to using more and more security or major updates and less on the weekly patches every day.
Cool. Anything else? We're almost at the top of the hour, and
I do. Well, in closing, I'd like to say something. If we're closing, I would like to say we stand on the shoulder of giants, and I'm really thankful for all the people that volunteer their time to this project and all open source projects. I'm really thankful to the people that started this project, the people that continue to work on this project, the people that have mentored me, Oleg, Mark, all kinds of people. And I'm super humbled to be in this position. And I can't thank you to all of the people that voted, to all of the nominees, to all the people, the elections committee. Thank you. Like really, really thank you. Again, all volunteers.
I have nothing to add other than, me too. Yeah. Samesies.
I feel like there should be some like John Williams level orchestral music happening right now as you're walking off the stage.
And we just actually, to throw into Mark's thing, we just got our numbers from Hacktoberfest. So there's hopefully someone will get, and someone in a loose term, hopefully we'll get a Hacktoberfest post out to show all the great volunteers and how much has been done in the month of October and how much a little contribution can go a long way. So you can start anywhere. So I was just remembering Mark's shirt.
I have a couple of those. I had a handful go in, I think. I have my pattern that I go after. The thing that bugs me the most, and this is what all my PRs have been to plugins and to core. This year was my first year to core. Was to do trim on string fields. Yeah. Like having front and back spaces on something that shouldn't have front and back spaces. It bugs me.
From a code perspective, or like no.
Yes,
I'm going to stay quiet on this one because I have feels about this.
Okay, go ahead. No, tell me. No, am I wrong?
No, actually, you're absolutely 100% right. And there's been lively debates and a few PRs over the last, I'd say, 3 months where that has come up, and it's it's clear.
That's definitely something I think the JavaScript community does far better than Java. And it's not that it doesn't exist; it's just not embraced. Editor config is a great file that every repo should have. That says this is what my file should have. They should have 2 spaces. They have 4 spaces. I don't care what it is. I just want to be able to get in a project and have the same. JavaScript has ESLint, which is an amazing tool for setting up all your rules. Any rule you care about, it'll enforce.
Yeah.
I've actually presented pitch talks on that whole subject about the fact is that I work on so many different projects. I don't want to have to think about what your coding standard is. I want to come in, I want to be able to do work, and I want to be able to submit without having to go back and forth constantly. Can you add a space here? Can you remove a space here? Can you add a new line here? The tool should do that either automatically or warn you before the PR happens. And I know there's a lot of that is happening more in Jenkins, but I want to see more of it. I want to make it fearless for someone to submit because they'll have that feedback right away on their editor before it gets submitted.
So I was actually talking about something else, not actual code. I was talking about like form fields having embedded front and backs, but you took it to a whole other level.
I'm very passionate about that topic.
Which is correct. Spaces or tabs.
I like spaces, but honestly, I don't care as long as the editor works the same way. As long as the editor does the thing for me, I don't care.
Marky,
I've had so many debates about this. I'm all about spaces.
But it has to be consistent, because if you ever go to GitHub,
it has to be consistent.
Don't ever make me review a PR where it's like, double quotes or single quotes. I will be like, no.
Yeah. Like you go into GitHub, you look at a review. Sorry. You go into GitHub, you look at a review, and you got lines that are way over and way one way and way the other way. So again, that's why I think the tooling should be there. We got to, as a group, get more involved because it's a barrier.
2 or 4?
Oh, I like 2.
4.
Oh, finally.
Again, I don't care because you can configure it, but I like 2.
Exactly.
Just consistent. That's all we ask. It's consistent.
Yeah. Now, 1 is abomination. We can all agree on that.
You do 1, and I review your PR, it probably won't be a fun time for either of us.
Yeah.
1 is abomination. 3 is fine, but it sucks.
Final question. VI or Emacs?
Oh, Vim.
VI all the way.
Okay. I still use it. I started to go to VS Code because I really liked it, but I'm back doing Vim constantly. So
I don't know. VS Code's really nice.
I've been doing Java and VS Code lately. It's the only thing I'm not doing in Vim.
Oh, I found that releasing a plugin in VS Code is so much easier than doing it in IntelliJ.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know why. I feel like in IntelliJ it took a lot of setup and just to release that plugin was more steps than I wanted to do. And when I did it in VS Code, it was super easy.
Okay, so then, because this is one of the plans I was having, is I was wanting to have some plugin authors come on and walk us through their process of how they're maintaining. And tag Marky, you're it. So you'll get to come back for that.
Ulrich.
And Ulrich can come on, and I'm going to bring Mark Wade on as well, because I want to see all 3 different processes. Gavin, you're going to come back with plugin site.
Yeah.
So it all sort of comes together. So over the next few months, we'll have people come on. I don't know what the schedule is yet. We'll figure that out. There probably won't be anything over the next 2 weeks. Come on. We're in the middle of Hanukkah. Christmas is coming up. Kwanzaa's coming up. There's probably 70 other holidays that I don't know about right now.
There's Overwatch Christmas event going on right now. It's just so busy.
Overwatch. Okay.
Yeah. And we're going to get rid of 2020. We are sending 2020 out the door. I'm so happy about that.
I was going to say there's also a large diversity in OSs too. Oleg is purely Windows. I'm a mix between Linux and Windows. And some people are pure Mac, and it's interesting to see from that point of view what the differences are as well.
Yeah, it's a good idea. And we'll probably get Oleg on again. We'll have to pull KK back at some point. We'll just have to have the grandfather come in and play, right? It's just
here's some of the stories about the early days.
Yep. Okay, guys, thanks for hanging out with us today. Again, Marky can be found at Marky Jackson 5. Gavin can be found at Hawkeye.
I
Was that
pronounced
supposed to be?
It was Hawkeye, but I'm a little dyslexic, and it's unique enough that nobody claimed it, so it's that forever
It's
now.
yours. Okay, good.
Yep.
That's. I was curious, and that was the answer.
It is fun to hear the first person try. Whenever someone tries to pronounce it the first time, I'm like, yeah, you do you. You're fine.
Is it what should it be? Is it Hawkeye or is it Halkeye? Like Hal? Or does it matter?
It doesn't matter. I always do Hawkeye though, like
Okay.
the Avenger, and then
Yes.
more important, the MASH character, because that's where it came from.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's so. I wonder, could MASH be? Can somebody at Disney buy the MASH property? They did. They bought 20th Century Fox, so they actually probably own MASH. I wonder if they could actually sort of bring MASH back.
As a reboot, I'm not sure they could. It's very niche sitcom, but they could definitely re-air it. It's aged decently.
No, it needs to be a reboot.
Yeah.
I would
just
think
don't
it would
know.
have to be a re-airing or
Oh.
I don't think you could do a reboot because of the time era there is so different. I think it'd be hard to recreate in a different thing. Its times are so different, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah. Okay. Guys, thanks. It was good talking to you. I'm going to boot you out. So everybody say their goodbyes to Gavin and to Marky. And to you for hanging out with us today. Again, we're going to have more of the Jenkins Project contributors coming on over time. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Go ahead and click on that there, click on the bell. That way you'll be notified anytime we have some new items being published. Also, if you're curious about more things, you can follow us on CloudBees Devs. We'll start posting there. And if you want to follow me on Twitter, again, my name is Darren Pope. Thanks for hanging out with us today. Hope you have a great rest of your week. Have a great holiday season, and we'll see you in the next video.